Okay, we're now recording. Hi and welcome everyone to this career insights session here. It's March 8th, 2022, and we are into career insights. And this time we're going to be looking at taking command of your energy and your career. As we do in these calls, we'll be spending about 45 minutes sharing some insights on this topic that I've gathered it through about 15 years coaching people through career transitions and upshifts. And then we're going to turn the camera off and go live with whoever's on the call, and we can get detailed around, what kind of support or insights might help you move forward in wherever you're going next. So that's really what we're about. I'm going to invite everybody to start with a little bit of breathing today. So if you're standing up, you might want to have your feet shoulder width apart, and you could roll your shoulders back. If you're sitting down, you might want to sit with your knees sort of 90 degrees, and your hands can go on your knees, and you can take a breath. One of the things I like to do is take a deep breath into the kinds of insights that will make a real difference for us in terms of going forward. How do we need to think, and what are the things that are going to unlock opportunities going forward? So I'm going to share some perceptions that I find to be helpful for folks that are in transition, and this is a playful encouragement for you all to take that on and write your own. There are probably some words and thoughts that you'd want to come back to. So we're going to start with a little breathing exercise today. Hello, welcome, Nicole. We're going to dive in first with a little bit of this breathing exercise, and then some key insights on energetic transformation. And then we're going to go into the coaching part in a bit. So inviting everybody to take a deep breath, and we're going to share some insights here. I love doing great work. You can take another breath and go, I love working with great people. Great people and environments bring out the best in me. I've done great work before, and I'm ready to do some more great work. I'm now moving into the most powerful and effective phase of my career. Everything that I've learned along the way has strengthened my faculties and ability and handling capacity to take on a new challenge right now. I'm getting more clear about who I am and what problems I love to solve. I'm ready for my next opportunity. I'm enjoying meeting people as I discover what that looks like. As I review and reconsider where I've been and where I'm going, I can see my career through the lens of value creator. I've created a lot of value along the way. I like creating value. I'm really confident that I'm going to bring a lot of value to the next place I'm going to. I know that not every job is for me. I'm getting selective now. I am more wise than ever in my understanding of what fit looks like for me. Big deep breath and breathe it in. And welcome back. This is something that you might want to start a day with. This might want, if you've got a certain number of hours a day that you've decided to assign to specific focus around career search or transition, maybe improving where you are now or deciding to leave where you are now and take on something different. You are the commander of your energy. You are the CEO of your life and your career. And when you're in transition, it becomes obvious all of the things that other departments used to handle in the overall architecture of business, they're now with you. You are your chief marketing officer. You are your chief sales officer. You're also responsible for taking care of admin and experience management and everything that goes with really moving from where you were to where you want to be now. Some of the people on the call might find themselves in transition because they've chosen to take a step forward into something, boldly and deliberately. Sometimes, market shift. Good people lose jobs all the time, and if you're someone who's recently been laid off, I'd like to encourage you to recognize that it doesn't mean you're not great. It doesn't mean you're not fit for work. There's a lot of stories that people can attach to situations and a lot of emotion that can come and block clear thinking, when it feels like the weight of the world is around us. And it's a funny time, and there's a lot of things happening in the news headlines that could easily stir up feelings of uncertainty within. And that can transfer into uncertainty within you about who you are and what you love to do. And I'd like to invite everyone on this call to take command of your energy and reel it right back into yourself. And remember that you are the architect of your emotional landscape. Your decisions profoundly influence the experience that people have with you. How you choose to think about your career and what you've done, it really profoundly affects the way that people will receive you and understand, what should we be hiring you for, right? You're like many people, you're probably good at a lot of things, and maybe some of the things that you're good at, anybody could do. And some of the things that you're good at, maybe only you can do. It's worth taking stock of what are those unique aspects of contribution that you can promise really well and over deliver on, because that's key to great branding. It's making sure that you have a promise that's well understood by the people that need to work with you. So if you're taking command of your energy and your career, well, it's going to start with, well, how do you think? How do you choose to feel about where you're at? The reality is there are plenty of opportunities and jobs. It's a pretty hot market right now. It's a unique time. And in this hot market, it really helps for you to truly understand what is the value you're bringing. So this may be a little bolt of inspiration to encourage you to maybe revisit your resume or your cover letters or your LinkedIn, and how are you engaging with people? Is there a better way to articulate your promise? If you were the hiring agent in the very company you want to work for, what would you hire you to do? The confidence that you feel about the fit that you're bringing to the table in your interviews is going to shape perception. If I'm interviewing someone and they're pretty sure they'd be a good fit, it definitely gives me some reassurance that I might just believe that too. So a lot of what happens in the career transition journey is an energy transformation journey. And some of the things that might elevate in their importance in your overall energy transformation management program, which you yourself will be running, is health and wellness, right? We got to do things that energize us, keep the spirit lit. I'm sure you know that some food really causes greater health and wellness in your body, and some kind of food doesn't. The food that you put into your precious vessel right now, as you're becoming the best version of yourself than you've ever been, the food you choose to take in, it's going to matter. The thoughts you choose to take in, that's going to matter too. Whatever you choose to fill your faculties with, that's going to inform the language you'll speak and the thought patterns you're on. It's easy when people are in transition to go into receptive listening mode. What's happening right now? I'm going to go on a job search. Oh, maybe I'll go on LinkedIn and see what's posted. Maybe I'll search Glassdoor. Maybe I'll search, Illuda or any of these other engines, where you might find the jobs that are already prepackaged there. Maybe there's already a budget assigned and they know what title it is even that they're looking for. And maybe they've even developed a job description and are accepting resumes and applications. Well, this is about 20% of jobs. And most people, because it seems to be easier to be passive and receptive rather than being creative and initiating, there's a substantial number of job seekers that are looking to get those jobs that are defined to the point that they're publicly accessible to a very broad audience. Now, I like to propose that you reverse your strategy if you're heading in that direction and say, no, I'm not just going to apply to jobs that people have already created. I recognize that horses out of the barn on those ones, and there may be hundreds of candidates. You still might be the best fit, and if it is looking like a very good job for you, well, of course, apply. But I will encourage you to think first. What kind of organizations do you think you'd be a perfect fit with? What kind of energy do you want to bring? What kind of energy do you appreciate in a boss or a colleague or coworker? And anyone who's sort of grown up in agency world definitely knows that there's an entirely different vibe from different industries. Different clients operate at different speeds, and have different requirements, different tone and communication. Some people really appreciate having a boss that tells you exactly what they need and how they need it and when they need it. And that gives a great deal of peace of mind to some people. And then to other creative people, having broad latitude helps them create a fresh and imaginative solution. So they might need the high level business strategy to be brought in at that level and then create from there. The level that you go in at in whatever organization you're moving towards, it's going to be reflective of what kind of value you promise to bring and can bring. There's sometimes we might have had a role that maybe it didn't quite reflect the level of seniority that we actually operate at. Maybe you were a de facto head of program management, but maybe it was never quite stated that way. Or maybe your title was a coordinator or a manager, but you might be more of an orchestrator or a leader, and then it's worth reconsidering where have you been, and what have you actually done, because if you can show that you've taken responsibility for accomplishing successful outcomes, then chances are you will be trusted to do more of that. And this comes to behavioral interviewing. Behavioral interviewing is it's a pretty common behavioral interviewing style. Is for them to recognize, past performance is likely some indication of what they might imagine for you in future performance. So behavioral interview questions often start with, "Can you tell me about a time when?" And if you're able to convey a time when you did something like this, then if you're wise, you will have pre-considered your interview answer to be something like challenge, action, result. Or, people also like the STAR story method: situation, task, action, and result. But the whole concept is somewhere along the line, someone either gave you some responsibility or you recognized an opportunity to take responsibility, right? Because you take leadership, you take responsibility. And that's really important as we switch on the initiative of ourselves. Many of us that I've had the opportunity to work with in this program have grown up in the marketing, advertising, and communications industry, and for many of us, it's a real great training ground. You get to learn lots about different things, and it moves at a swift pace. But then come halfway through your career, full-time jobs in agency world doesn't tend to be like that common. And at that point, if you've had 10 or 20 years experience working with clients or in the industry, it's might be a good time to package that up and really deeply understand what's the impact you create. And then who else might you need to work with to round out the entire experience? Maybe you're an amazing creative that really needs a strategist and a program manager to partner with. Okay, well, that might be a perfect sized team. Maybe you're a one hat for everything kind of person, and you like to operate, as a one person organization. So there are different kinds of work. Some people are energized by working with people a lot. Some people are more energized by having, quiet time to be away from people and not have the social pressure that would be energizing for some. It might be depleting for others. It's a great time to know yourself. It's a great time to get a coach. Get someone to help you think critically about who you are and where you have been. Get an assessment. Berkman assessment is one that I'm a big fan of, but there are a number of good assessments out there which can give you maybe some fresh empirical insights on who you are, how you're probably received by people. Because, what fits for one kind of job might be a different kind of fit for a different job, right? Someone who moves at the pace of, a childcare worker to really get on the frequency of a child might be a different pace than an ER paramedic, and so for some people it's energizing to have the sort of the high pressure quick. For other people it's more energizing to have more of a deep, slow, considerate thing. And this goes right down to figuring out what kind of working style you want to embrace. Maybe you're a deep thinker that requires a lot of time to consider things and should be given the opportunity to really think things through, because you're going to see things that other people don't when they move swiftly. But maybe you're an action person, and maybe sheer volume of process is a big part of your value. You know, whichever person you are, it doesn't matter. It's just, you're going to be more suited to different kinds of jobs. Sometimes when we move into transition, I see people kind of white out at the possibility of all the things they could do. And, the fool's move on that is dumbing down your resume and trying to make it look like you could be a fit for anything or anyone. I would encourage you to go exactly the opposite direction. I would say that imagine you were an exceptional fit for like a minimum possible number of roles, right? And if you can really envision what perfect fit looks like, and go and pursue those conversations, chances are you're going to unlock opportunities that they don't even know are jobs yet. And it may come in the form of a job, it may come in the form of contracts. I think there was a groundbreaking personal branding book that was written many years ago by Tom Peters. It was the Brand U50, and in that he made a very wise perception and shared it that we're really moving into like project-based world, and we have been for many years. And we might have grandparents' generations working 30 years with one organization, but now in the pace of change, especially in this industry, holy wow, we've got to adapt, we've got to transform, we've got to do something a little different. In professional services, it's not uncommon for the work to be sold first and then to figure out how you're really going to deliver it. It takes a certain degree of confidence to say, hey, I can take that on. I can take that business problem off your shoulders and put it on mine. When you actually take full accountability of an issue and you become the person, well, there's often more salary and responsibility that goes with that because you're owning it. And maybe you look back at your career and you see you kind of been owning it for quite some time. Well, it would be great to make sure that that's reflected effectively in your resume. Because if you're the kind of person that can be trusted to own it, well, find opportunities to own it, right? Sometimes another way of thinking about work is the leader, manager, doer. And we all have the leadership part of ourselves. We have the management part of ourselves, and we have the doer person. And some roles are focusing more on like carrying out, executing tasks, more doer kind of roles. And then some involve like, management of things. You know where you're going, and you just got to keep everything managed really well. And then there's a whole other level, which is the leadership, which will require vision, which will require insight, which will require, if you want to come from a deep place, to really get into your values. What are you about for real? What really matters to you in life? And for those folks that are on the call that aren't really quite so certain what the next phase of work is going to look like, wow, values and principles and preferences, these become very important considerations right now. And I encourage you to just embrace that study of self-knowledge at a very deep level. Because the more you take the time to really meet the depth of yourself, the more you understand how powerful you really are. And how much impact you can have, especially when you're doing the right things with the right kind of people. So yeah, take a deep breath. It's changing times. You can always decide that today is the first day of the rest of your life. That's a very helpful perception if you're moving into, a change in your career. And this then kind of goes back to updating your story about who you are. Whether we think about it actively or just passively, we kind of all have a self view somewhere. There's probably a few things we think about ourselves. And some people have overinflated self views, and that's one issue. And some people have underinflated self views, and that's another issue. Self views are rarely accurate. You might have a sense of yourself, but it really helps getting the feedback from the world around you and some assessments to really get on top of truly what are you bringing? Who are you? And it's okay to not be great at some things. Some people might have a part of work that they just terrible at. Whether it's like getting into the granular around the numbers, or maybe it's like maybe they're too shy to be effective in managing and leading people. Well, it's okay. You can decide how many triggers you want to take on in your life. And maybe it's like some people are lower challenge, where they love to do the work that they know that they're good at, because it creates good harmonic flow. They're always in their sweet spot because they're doing what they're great at, and there's a certain predictability about that. And other people are high challenge people. They would be tremendously bored by doing things that they're already good at. They want to do things that they're not good at yet, because they want to be good at them in the future and then learn the new things. And some people appreciate a certain level of confrontation and discussion and engagement. Other people prefer a little bit more of a wide orbit situation. But as you're taking command of your career and your energy, I encourage you to think about these things. What are the thoughts that you want to plant inside your head right before you set out on the job search? Maybe you're reaching out to someone and asking for a meeting. And maybe you're moving swiftly. Maybe you're taking care of some things at home and managing a few things all at once. You sit down to write that email. Take a minute. You might actually kind of want to take a step back at that. The pace with which you were doing the last activity might not be on the same energetic plane that you want to connect deep to deep with whoever it is you're reaching out to. Networking. Networking is really the source of, at least 80% of opportunities for folks like us on the call. And I'm going to get to meet you in greater depth in a bit when we move into our coaching phase. But networking is really how trust is built. It's the people that introduce you to people. If they're a trusted person, it's top of the pile for you. Hey, I know Michelle. You got to meet Michelle. Michelle's so bright. And it's like, well, of course I'd love to interview her if someone else is saying, hey, I know her and I vouch for her, right? So there will be people in your network that would love to help you if they only knew how. Well, one way they could probably help you is to introduce you to the people you really want to talk to. So this means that before you go reaching out to the people that know you and love you and have worked with you at some point along the way as you grow and expand and manage your LinkedIn network, you're also going to want to know who are you going to put on your target list. If you could have 10 conversations with 10 different business leaders or department leaders, whatever the case may be, depending on how what size of organization or what. Who are the 10 people you want to talk to? And what the hell would you talk to them about anyways? I think curiosity is a really important thing. There's an important saying that one of my clients shared with me early on in my career. It was awesome. He goes, I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care. Bingo. Right? So as you're meeting people and you're reconnecting people with people that you've worked with over the years, you're going to want to take keen interest and care about them. How are they doing? And it's like, okay, sometimes when people get stressed, they can instead of operating from their strength behavior, they operate from their stress behavior. And what that can look like when they're on the job search is they can sound a little shy, a little reserved, a little bit nervous or anxious. I would encourage you to breathe into the space that's occupying for yourself right now. Breathe in and just go, hey, I'm a really good person and I love doing great work with great people. And the kinds of issues I would love to solve in the world right now are this, this, and this. And here are the organizations that seem to be at that kind of thing. Boy, I'd love to talk to them. I'd love to find out what their greatest challenges are. I'd love to find out what aspect of their organization or their work isn't getting them to where they want to get to. Maybe there's something I know that could help them out. Maybe I know someone I can introduce them to. That curiosity as you discover and mine for opportunities. You may find that in this very call, you meet someone who is the perfect fit for an opportunity that you discovered a few days ago that isn't for you. But maybe you can help that person. And the whole pay it forward attitude in the networking, it goes a long way, right? Because there are people who need your help. And as you reach out to be a helper, you get helped. It's sort of the reciprocal nature of the universe. And another thing that comes into that is when we're in transition, career transition, we can be a little shy. There's nothing wrong with being in transition. Hey, this whole planet's in transition. And some people get really attached to like this is my title, and if you used to have a title that you were proudly able to say, well, I'm this, and now you can't quite say that, it's time to get a new story. And that new story is going to be based on who you really truly are, what you love to do, and it's not going to be necessarily tied to what a title that someone else assigned to you, right? And maybe you have a title right now, maybe you have a job, but your life and your overall business proposition might be bigger than the job that you have right now. Well, you can take command of that by going on LinkedIn and updating your headline and establishing the title that you want the world to see you as, whether it's senior marketing leader or, creative ideation specialist, complex program orchestration, and there may be different kinds of combinations of language that you would find that if people just know those like 3, 4, 5 words about you, then they're right in the ballpark, right? You want your audience to know who you are. You want the people that used to work with you to be able to update their view of you. They say you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And it's a funny thing because, as you go to interview into new places, or let's say you're moving into an entirely different role in a new space, and maybe you've been in another place for a while, allow yourself to level up to where you really are now and come at that level, right? You don't have to make history repeat itself. History repeating itself seems to be a bit of a sport of many recruiters. It's easy for a recruiter to place you into a role that is really similar to what you used to have. Oh yeah, she's done that at a very similar agency with similar clients. Makes it very easy for them to feel like they're gonna be able to earn their recruiter pay and not have it not work out because you're already proven for having worked in an environment like that. And then in the salary negotiation and interviews, you might get questions like, what did you make in your last role? It's up to you if you want to share that information. But, you might want to now it up and get really future focused because you're not now who you were last year. And if you're on this growth track, and certainly enough of a growth track to take a sunny day and come on to a Zoom call with some other people that are also keenly tuning into career insights and, being a conscious navigator of your career in life, well, you're probably a person that's going to find some good opportunities wherever you're going and make something good happen. All right. So let's talk about backstory for a sec. This whatever you did last year, it's when it comes down to your resume, it's probably just going to boil down to a few sound bites. Right? You're probably going to be able to look back at that and say, oh, I accomplished that, I did that. I held responsibility for X, saving or earning X. If you can add some quantification to your stories and your resume, that really helps. Helps me understand that, you really own the business impact of the work that you're generating. But it's all going to boil down to a few stories, and you can decide what those stories are. So what kind of wins do you want to have this year? For some people, it may be around business development. Some people, it may be about human resources and leadership culture. Some may be cost savings and management. Each person on this call is going to have a different confluence of strengths, and as you bring your strengths together, that makes for a very interesting tell me about yourself story. When someone asks you at the front end of an interview, tell me about yourself. Don't fall into the trap of being too far away from the now. So I've heard people start, well, back when I was 6, I won an award for, okay, don't start there, right? Start now. What's the job that you're talking about? So let's say there's someone's looking for a marketing leader. Okay, well, tell me about yourself. Well, I'm an accomplished marketing leader. I love helping people and organizations get the best idea presentable in the most powerful way to engage maximum market share. I've been doing this for a while at places like this, and this, and I'm really excited to hear about your aspirations in this organization. How are you looking to grow? Start a conversation. Get them to understand where you're coming from as swiftly as possible. Some people go into their interviews thinking that they got a report on, oh yeah, I did this, and they're always on their back foot and referring back to the resume. I would encourage you to see if you can win trust about your experience as swiftly as possible. If they can understand in a very short period of time that you have the skill set and the understanding to be able to hit the ground running with minimal training, then, you're kind of ready to go. And then it would be really wonderful to take more time in that interview, if you can, talking about the future. What are they trying to do? What does success look like to them? What is their vision? Let them paint the dream. And so you know what you're writing yourself into. Or just discovering, hey, what they're into is not what I thought they were into. I'm going to find a good fit, right? Because fit's gold. When the fit is good, the opportunity will be ripe for you to have the success stories that are going to look great on your resume next year. And you're probably going to enjoy, not only the experience of work, because you'll be working with the kind of people you want to vibe with. You're also going to have an opportunity to make a meaningful impact. Maybe you'll get questions as you interview, where do you want to be in 5 years? And maybe you have no clue. Well, that's okay. You don't have to get pegged into answering a specific around, well, I want your job. Well, really? That might not be the best strategy, but you might say that, well, when I look back at the last 10 years of my work, working with people and helping orchestrate smooth deliverables has been a consistent thread of my career. And, I'm looking to take that art and skill up a level by having an expanded portfolio of projects and greater management experience. And it's very easy to envision that. It's very easy when you say, where do you want to be in 5 years? And you help them see that, hey, the stuff you've built so far, the experiences that you've had so far actually set you up to really naturally ace that particular challenge. It helps to know what you want to measure yourself on. Many sophisticated organizations will have a performance management system. Someone will have taken time to develop that, and maybe you're giving yourself an evaluation. Maybe your manager is. Maybe the two of you sit down and talk about that. Okay, well, that's one thing. That's your performance review in the context of that role. But what about your performance review, self to self, as the CEO of your life? It's a good kind of time to step back and go, well, what's going to make a difference? When I found myself thrown into transition, I'd worked 14 years with one agency, and all of a sudden the economy tanked, and I lost my job. And I was like, okay, I had single-digit kids at home. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I want to make some changes. I know that there's no, this is a very unique role that I'd kind of grown up into. And I'm like, well, I want something different. And I don't quite know what it's like, but I know I want to have impact. I want to do more talking than typing. I want to meet people who have more talent and power than they know how to bring out of themselves, and I want to help them bring it out of themselves. I want to have more time with my kids and more time for my music and art projects. And just kind of like getting the picture from all dynamics. I want to live a healthy life. I want to wake up and feel radiant most of the day. And These are the kinds of things I want. And for some people, when they're doing their will haves and won't have list, which I strongly encourage you to do, make a list of like 10 energies or influences or things you want to welcome into this next phase. I want to work with driven leaders. I want to work with an opportunity that's going to let me have impact. I want to have freedom and flexibility about time. Some people want to bring their dog to work. Some people want a really short commute. It's all valid. Want to work in an aesthetically, fine environment. Boy, I love working in aesthetically fine environments. I do better work there, right? So I put that on my will have list. And, whatever you want to put on your will have list, you have an opportunity to really kind of focus your lens in on those things. And you're going to be able to show up in the power that shows up well when those conditions are met. Right? And it's also good to have a won't have list. What do you want to stay away from? Maybe you now know what it's like to work with people that are pedantic bosses. Maybe you don't want to work with a pedantic boss. That's okay. There's so many bosses of so many different kinds. You know, maybe you don't want someone who's always kind of like breathing down your neck. That's fine. Well, if you've got some experience and you know how to take initiative and make an impact, well, you probably don't need someone breathing down your neck. Right? So I'd like to just remind you that, your energy in your life is preciously yours. And anyone in their right mind who's interviewing is interviewing for energy. It's like, what is the vibe that this person is bringing? And you can be greatly accomplished on the technical skill side of things, but if the cultural impact is going to be questionable, then it's not really a go forward situation. When I was hiring at Interbrand, we had 2 rules of hiring: no divas and no assholes. And it was really so important because we had so many good people there, creatives, and creatives were classically sensitive, right? So you get a bunch of sensitive creatives in one place, you're going to need to be sensitive about what kind of people you bring into that environment, or it could upset the balances in some ways, right? So you might want to take stock of what kind of vibe are you bringing to the next place? And what kind of boss loves the kind of vibe you bring? And, and what kind of management style resonates with you? What are the kinds of things you want to do with your skill set now? One of the things you might want to do when you're updating your LinkedIn is consider what are the skills that you've got people voting you in on. There's an opportunity to declare that you have 50 skills. And, some people might have done some of them for you already. But, when you get a certain number of people endorsing you for saying, hey, yeah, this person has that skill, after a while, when you're reaching out for work, people look at your LinkedIn and say, oh, wow, okay, like there's a lot of people here that seem to suggest that this skill is the truth, right? Maybe you've done great work with people that they would be willing to give you a referral on LinkedIn. It's like write up an endorsement testimonial. It really helps. If people have good things to say, they often like to be invited into the opportunity to say them. You don't have to feel small in asking. In fact, it would really be an opportunity for them to really shine the light on the quality that you've got. This ties into reference management. At some point, I bounce around, but all of these things are relevant. At some point, you might be in the job search and interview process, and someone might ask you for references. Well, you're going to want to manage your references. Firstly, you're going to want to consider who are your references. You probably need 3, and it would be wise if at least 2 of them are people you reported into. If it's like 5 people reference, sometimes it goes that far. A couple of direct reports, maybe a client or 2, maybe some people who work beside you or even reported into you. Get a 360 perspective. But you're going to want to have a quick conversation with each person. Maybe one of your references you haven't talked to in 3 years. Can they really be expected to be crisp and have your value top of mind? They might. But, asking them for a 5-minute phone call, that's not really an onerous ask. I have an opportunity coming up that would be a perfect fit, and I imagine you might have some unique insights into my performance. When it comes to references, would you be willing to be one? Would you be open to taking 5 or 10 minutes on the phone sometime this week to just touch base and discuss? Thanks so much. Easy flow, easy conversation, easy ask, easy return. All right? big part of moving forward in the career is removing the obstacles that are usually the ones that we put there ourselves, right? So allow yourself to sort of upshift if upshifting's what you want. This is another thing. Managing your career, you may decide that, hey, career used to be like a 60 or 70 hour a week thing, and I'm now affording 30 hours a week to my career. Okay, cool. What can you do with those 30 hours? You're going to want to make impact. You're going to want to have a really good story to tell. You're going to want to have people be able to recognize the value of the work that you do there. And maybe it's an opportunity for you to move away from the tasks and responsibilities that are a little more junior and maybe eat up your genius time and take on tasks that allow you to apply your genius in a greater way. Because as we apply our genius, it's a fun process. We're lit up about our work. Life's too short to hate Mondays, right? And so if you want to have a happy life, you gotta find work that really resonates, and you are the commander of your life, and you decide what resonates, and there's real power in that. And when you know your value and you know what you're bringing to people, and you see the world with the eyes of curiosity from that place of strength, you might be able to discover that there are organizations that really desperately need you right now. You've come from a place where they've worked out systems and processes. Either you have or you've adopted them by swimming in those waters. Maybe there's an organization that needs the caliber of management that is just a basic standard for you. That could be a fun thing. All of a sudden going from, more of a learner absorber to a generator giver. And that might represent like a real pivotal shift in life. I hit a point in my career where I just decided, okay, hey, everything up to this point, I'm just going to consider it absorption. And now it's time to think about it as impact. I didn't even know fully what it meant. It just resonated with me. I was like, you know what? I can't be living in the past wishing I could have done something different or whatever. I did what I did and I learned what I learned from it. And now I want to take that learning and make maximum impact with that. By finding the sincere and the genuine bright lights that benefit from the extra wattage and amperage that my perceptions can offer them, so that I can help people push through into the next level of their career and their life. And I'm really grateful to have partnered with NABS for many years in helping people, in this highly volatile industry, to be able to do just that. NABS is a wonderful organization. I encourage you to look at it. The services that they're offering. If you're going into an agency, make your agency people more aware of what it is. This is the charity and the advertising and marketing and media space where give people a bit of a hand up, and so whether it's tragedy might have hit in some way, or in this case it's like helping people find their fortitude for transition, ahead of crisis, then hey, it's a force of good in the world, and I'm really grateful to partner with NABS and bring this kind of programming here. So really, in conclusion to this section, I'd really like to encourage everyone to really just kind of go inside and go, okay, if you're now the master commander of your energy, what energies do you choose? What are 3 powers that you want to be part of your personal brand? What can you promise and deliver on? And then find, we'll expand on that, and we'll get to, well, where will you have an opportunity to be those things? And where can you be met with the attitude that's really going to bring out the best in you? Because life is really precious, and then when we recognize it from that perspective, we end up affording ourselves the esteem that belongs with the good work we've done. Be proud of all the good work you've done, and get excited about the even better work you're now ready to do, because you can. You're not going to make the same mistakes you did 5 years ago. I bet you can do things so much faster than someone who's brand new. That's why they pay you the big bucks. Right? So channel and harness the insight and that energy and make an impact in a place where you really want to make an impact. And I'm excited to see what that looks like. So I'm going to stop the recording at this point. We're going to move more into coaching time. Thanks, everybody.